Hi there, and welcome to this talk about why Gitops matters for business success. My name's Steve George, and I'm the COO at Weaveworks, one of the companies that's been working in the cloud native space. We coined the term Gitops a few years ago from helping teams build and operate cloud native applications and platforms at scale. And that's a term that's been taken up across the industry. So my goal today is to tell you what Gitops is, why it's important from a business perspective, and then hopefully, having convinced you that it's a great thing, how you can adopt Gitops. Let's jump right in. So the thesis for this talk is based on three things. Gitops supports the DevOps approach in a highly effective way. And specifically what this means is that Gitops brings DevOps to cloud native software operations. It's taking the principles of DevOps and then applying them in the specific cloud native sphere. And for that reason, because we know that the DevOps capabilities and principles help teams to operate more effectively, Gitops takes that mantle forward, and it can help to significantly improve the way that we operate cloud native software. So Gitops, what is it? Well, at a central level, it's very straightforward. We're thinking about Git for configuration management and Ops, the operations of software. So here we have our developers on the left. They're working on their code and their configuration, and they've got an application that they want to deploy into a runtime environment, a Kubernetes environment, here on the right with two applications. They could, of course, just directly apply that into the environment, but they want to take advantage of automation. So using automation, what we think about here is the fact that on the left-hand side, we have the desired state. This is all of the configuration, everything that is needed to deploy the actual service. And then on the right-hand side is the actual state. This is the running system. And they use automation to deploy that service, that capability, that application, whatever it is. And with Gitops, one interesting aspect here is that we can take advantage of a convergence loop. And so what I mean by that is we can take advantage of the declarative basis for cloud native technologies, Kubernetes specifically, and we can ask the system, what is the actual state? And so from that, we can say, we have a desired state, what we want it to be. We have an actual state, what it actually is, and we can see if the two things are converging together. If they are, we know that our deployment has been successful, whatever that is. And if it isn't, then we know there's a problem and we can react accordingly. And so ultimately, that is the heart of what Gitops is, using this convergence loop to say, I want something, deploy it, did I get it, in a continuous loop. Another aspect that's interesting here, of course, is that we're using Git. We're bringing Git as a single interface to the operations of software. So moving it from not just an interface for development, which development teams are very familiar with, but moving it across into that operational sphere and making it the single point of collaboration and work that the teams use whenever they're deploying or operating their software. So in the CNCF, Gitops is an open working group, and we've been working on the principles of Gitops for a while, as everyone has come to understand how Gitops can be used to deploy and operate software in the cloud native sphere. And these principles are as follows, that the entire system is described declaratively. So here we're taking advantage of Kubernetes' declarative nature and many of the other cloud native technologies, and we describe the entire system. And here what we mean by that is the Kubernetes platform itself, any services that it needs, the workloads that you're intending to run on top of it. And then we have the canonical desired version stored in Git. So this is what we want stored in that Git repository. We can then you make sure that approved changes are automatically applied. So we're using that automation to apply those changes. We'll talk about some cases where we may not want to automatically apply them, but it's important that we use an agent to take advantage of reducing the speed of that loop, or increasing the speed in which you do those deployments. And then, because we've got this software agent which understands the actual running state within the runtime, we can then check whether there has been any divergence. So when there is that divergence, we can take an action. So if the runtime state diverges, we can choose to remove that bad change and automatically deploy a new one. And so ultimately what we have here is a closed loop system. When we talk about Gitops, one of the first questions that people have is, well, I already use my CI system to deploy applications. So are you telling me that I need to change my CI system? Something I've put a lot of effort and teams understand very well. And we're not. CI remains as it was before. All we're doing is removing the CD part from it. And we're taking that into its own separate area where we do deployments with an agent, and then that's its own system. So continuous delivery now works using a Gitops system. And then, of course, because we live in a continuous world, we know that we need to continuously operate and build new versions, deploy new versions, scale our systems, deal with latest changes, new sales,